PJNet Live Wednesday night, January the 8th. It is 9 o'clock on the East Coast, and we are ready to roll with part one. We have a bumper rolling. We have a background image mounted. We are recording. We are streaming on all platforms. We will switch to Studio 6 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, good evening and welcome to PJNet Live. It is great to do this once again. Here it is Wednesday night, and we are just getting started. If you are in our chat room at patriotjournalist.com, we extend to you a very special and warm welcome. You are what makes this so worthwhile, as well as the guests we have and me and the picture of the pictures. Do you see that picture? Notice that it bears the signature of Lori Hayes. Now, that is not a pasture. There are no fences. Those are not stock. That is wild horses. And the reason I know is because Lori is a connoisseur, in fact, I would say fanatic of wild horses, and I don't really know why. Lori, we've had you on more than once. This is not your first rodeo. You are fascinated with wild horses. Would it be okay if I ask you, what the heck is it about wild horses that just consumes you so?
Well, anything about horses is awesome, but I particularly like the wild horses because they're so free, and the history behind them is amazing. And I don't know, I'm fascinated by going out there and bringing my camera and just taking pictures and just knowing that they're wild. It's just amazing to me.
Now,
plus, I like to write about them.
Now, there's wild horses. You go to this island that's not too far. Is that correct from you? But what about the rest of us all over the United States? If we wanted to go see wild horses, where would we go?
So they dot the coast, the East Coast of United States, and then they're even in the West with the Mustangs. So I don't know much about the Mustangs, but I know a lot about the wild horses, which we do not call them Mustangs on the East Coast. We just call them wild horses.
Just what? So a Mustang is not a breed. A Mustang means a wild horse. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think that it might be a breed because they call the ones on the West Coast a Mustang.
Oh.
And these are the wild horses. But these came from the Spanish ships when they sank, and the thought is that they swam ashore. Nobody knows for sure how they got on the islands, but that's the favorite.
That's the legend.
Tell.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we'll just go with it because we weren't there. The Spaniards themselves, they're gone. they didn't. But the horses, they bred and stayed, and so they just foraged on. But there's something about it in your case. Now, you love the beach too, right?
I absolutely do.
And you like
photography? So I like to write beach books with the wild horses, yes.
You like photography?
In fact, in my first book, yes, I love photography. In fact, in my first book, it's about the wild horses and the beach and photography. The woman was a photographer.
You covered all three in one book. So what are you going to write about next? I mean, maybe you should have considered
book number 11.
Yeah, okay. You should have considered 3 books, maybe. I don't know. You have some pictures behind you. I presume that you actually took those pictures.
I did, yes.
Is there a story?
And if anybody's interested, they can always go to LoriHayesPhotography.com and just look at the wild horses.
Oh, so you have a different website.
I also have some pictures of I do. I also have some pictures of Hawaii on there, too.
Well, that's right. For those of you who were here last time, you shared about your crazy trip to Hawaii and the dog that became a part of that. And we actually had your dog join you on the show last time. We may actually see your cat tonight, based on if Lori screams and the cat jumped on her lap. We're having some guests, in Lori's place there. But
she's jealous because the dog was on it last time.
Yeah. So tell me this: you work, you write, but is going to that island and seeing the horses, is that a spiritual communion with God? Is that an inspiration for writing? Or is it just some downtime you need for yourself?
All the above. And the part of the island that I like to go to, really, there aren't that many people that even go over there. So there are sometimes you could just go out there and be the only, just whoever you bring out there.
How big is the place?
It's just you.
How many? 40 acres? 100 acres? What is it?
I think it's 8 miles. In my book, I say it's 15, but that's incorrect. I think it's really 8 miles.
It seems like 15 when you hike it,
Oh, you can't hike it all in one day, and it's rugged, and you have to go through the Maritime Forest. There's one path to go from one side to the other.
There's a path?
Rugged, definitely. One path, yes. And sometimes you can follow horse paths through there.
Oh, the horses make the path. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the horses will make a path because that's their safe zone. They know if they make a path that they've traveled that way before, and in case, they're prey animals, so that they flee if a predator comes. So they like to have
they've got an escape.
Safe areas, right, so that they know they've been down that path before and they'll escape. And in fact, the whole dynamic is very interesting. They have what they call harems, which are just herds, and they hang out in certain sections of the island. They're not territorial, but they hang out in territories, if that makes sense.
Right. They're not.
Go ahead.
They're not protective of it. They just like hanging out there.
Right. And so each harem has a stallion, and then, of course, depending on how strong and powerful of a stallion he is how big his harem is. So it's pretty interesting. So then there's always an alpha mare in the herd, and she is in control of telling the other horses what to do, where to go. She's in charge of them, but the stallion protects them. So that's pretty interesting. And then about age 2, they kick the bachelor stallions out of the herd, maybe age 3, and they have to kind of roam the island, sort of look for their own territory, develop their own herds, which doesn't happen until they're maybe 6 years old because they're just not strong enough to keep the herds that they win. So a lot of times if you go out there, you'll see them kind of on the edge of other herds because, that's where the protection is when they're in a herd, as opposed to just roaming around. And right. I've heard that there are coyotes out there. I don't think they've had any problems with the horses and the coyotes. But, there is some danger.
Well, I was enlightened last week. I would have had no idea that donkeys are natural enemies of coyotes, and the coyotes lose. I'm like,
yes.
I'm not afraid of a donkey, but maybe I should reconsider. When
people will buy them just for that reason.
Yeah, JD was very enlightening. I just consider donkeys dumb animals. Just dumb, but apparently they are not. And now this horse obsession, infatuation that you have. Where did that come from? Did you just wake up one day, or was there an encounter, or is it just something you've grown to love?
I don't know. I think I was born with it. I think a lot of little girls love horses, but I can say that it's genetic because my grandfather loved horses. And he used to have a few of them, and he would show them. My mom, she showed horses a little bit, but she was always afraid of them. And my grandmother just chased them around with a broom if they were eating her plants. So I could say I got it from my grandfather, but we lived out in the country, in a neighborhood out in the country when I was little, and there were horses down the street, and I would walk down there all the time and feed them carrots. So it kind of started there. And then when we moved, I started taking lessons, and I would work at a stable so that we could afford for me to take lessons. And I actually rode at Grants Farm Manor, which was owned by the Bushes, with Anheuser-Busch. So that was interesting. So I took lessons from some of the Bush kids.
Now,
I worked my way through that, and so I could ride.
I'll tell you my horse story. I actually had a horse when I was a young boy, actually, in the first grade. And I rode that horse twice, my first and last, because what happened?
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did the saddle thingy, okay, so they got me on the horse. Well, the saddle apparently was not cinched correctly or something.
No.
Because that saddle kind of inverted. And of course, I was hanging on for dear life while that horse ran and just drug me under its underbelly until I let go. And then it just trampled on me. And, so I've ridden a horse twice, my first and last. And that was that. I do admire the majesty of a lot of wild animals, not just horses. But for me, I enjoy watching ducks and geese, waterfowl, migratory game. Mm-hmm. But I know why. My father took me duck hunting as a young man, and I have fond memories, and that was sort of the rite of passage, to be a boy, be given a gun, so, but I don't shoot them anymore, but I will go out on the lake and watch because they are so majestic and so. Well, JD's here. He's worked in the defense industry, and he knows a lot about some of the aircraft that our military uses. But I can assure you this, as impressive as that is, nothing can outfly a wood duck.
Okay? That's true.
The best we can build cannot outfly a wood duck. A wood duck can fly through the forest and not break a branch. I kid you not.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Well, they have this little sonar. They make this whistling sound. You can always tell them screeching that's a wood duck. And they fly through there, and they won't even touch a branch. I kid you not. I don't know how they do it. It is,
wow.
It's a miracle. But horses are, now you photograph them, you love them, but you ever rode one? A wild horse?
Oh my gosh, I've been riding since 3rd grade.
A wild horse? Are you kidding me?
Oh no, not a wild horse. I actually did get to sit on one of the wild horses. Sometimes they rescue them, if they don't want them to reproduce. Sometimes they'll take so many of them off the island, but they also use birth control darts to try to manage that. So I don't believe they take as many off the island as they used to. Right. But I was actually at a fair, like a craft fair, and I was selling my books and I was selling my photographs of the horses, and I'll be darned, it was down there by the island that I always visit, and I'll be darned if they didn't have a wild horse there that was rescued and trained, and she walked him down and let him walk into my booth and look at all the pictures of his wild horses, and he looked at them like he actually knew or recognized them. It was really funny, but she let me sit on him, and I was just in awe. So I got to sit bareback on this wild horse. It was really neat.
Now Lori, I've traveled around the world, and I've met a few people along the way, and I've traveled throughout the United States. I've never met many horse fanatics like yourself, but apparently you're not the only one. Okay, you have a blog. You're telling me that other people care about this. Is that, what do y'all talk about? I saw another wild horse. Yes, yeah, I saw one too. Really?
Oh, they're fascinating, and just horses in general. It's just like the riding community. We're all one big family.
So there's this horse cult out there.
If you want to call it that.
And y'all get together and blog. I mean, you have a blog about, your photography of the wild horses. By the way, speaking of blog, I forgot to, Lori has a website. It is, now it's going to be hard to spell, LoriHayesAuthor.com. There it is right there. You have no excuse. And how often do you're blogging regularly now? Is that the New Year's resolution?
Sure.
You're not lying. You're just telling the truth in advance, right? That's
Sure. It's on it's on my list to do.
It's it's you're prophesying.
as
You're
well
gonna
as as well as create an email list. And so I have this photograph that I want to share, and that anybody who goes to my website at lorihaysauthor.com and signs up for my newsletter, they can enter a chance to win this photograph. And I normally charge $80 on sale, but I'm giving it away.
you're gonna give away this folks. That is a horse's butt. All right, there you have
Can
it.
you see it?
Yes, we can. So,
Okay.
and this is I take it a wild horse. That's why its hair's. It looks like it's got bed head. Just got out of bed.
And that's a pregnant mare, and it was taken in the winter, so she's kind of fuzzy.
They get fuzzy in the
And then if
winter.
you look behind me,
Okay.
can you see?
Yeah. Which one?
I got the one with the lighthouse. That was
I like
my
that
dream shot.
I like that.
And I also have one that's horizontal, and it has two of the horses, the stallion and one of his long-term mares. And since then the stallion has died, but in the lighthouse was actually lit. I sat there so long, I could learn the timing of the lighthouse, and so nothing is photoshopped at all. I just got lucky.
Yeah. See, you watch that thing long enough, you kind of catch on to the cadence. It does the
Yeah.
same thing. Sort of like Old Faithful. You can just sit there and time it out. You can.
So, yeah, that was definitely my dream shot. And then I always wanted to get the horses swimming in the water, and I got that on my last trip, but I have not put that on my website yet.
So we have something to look forward to. Okay.
Yes. And we should talk about hurricanes, because those horses have survived all these years during these hurricanes. And there is a big area that's a maritime forest, and they will go into the maritime forest, which is very thick. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can't even walk through it, but they have some paths that go through it, and they know where they are, and they'll go deep in that maritime forest and ride out the hurricane. And then
recently we heard about all
Dorian,
the fires in
actually.
Dorian.
Yeah. Well, when Dorian came through I think it's Cedar Island, also has horses, but it's lower, and those horses are actually harder to see. But the water came in so fast and hard that we lost some of the horses on that island. So that was sad.
Mm-hmm.
But the island that I write about, they're fine.
They may. Well, yeah, they have and they herd together. They protect one another, and it just, God looks after the sparrow. So the horses, they get it too. We've heard a lot about the wild animals in Australia with the brush fires, and your heart goes out to these animals that are caught in something that, it's a natural disaster, but it might be man-made. But they are just as threatened, and our heart goes out to them. So people, you can go to LoriHaysWriter.com. Author, I'm sorry.
No, Lori Hayes, author.
Yeah, I'll put it back on the screen. I wasn't reading it. And you're telling me that if they sign up for your newsletter, they will be entered. Now, when does that, if they do that a year from now, will they still be entered? When are you going to give the picture
Oh,
away?
no. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. All right, folks, you got 2 weeks to go to her website, sign up to get her newsletter. And who knows, you may get an $80, and you took that photograph, is that correct?
I did, yes.
You didn't get it down at the flea market or something like that? You did?
No.
Okay.
That's one of my 8,000 photographs.
It's a good thing that back in my day, when you took pictures, you had to take it down to the drugstore, and you'd leave them there, and 2 days later, you'd get these prints, and they were rather expensive, but and of course, if you made a mistake, well, it's too late. It's just too bad.
I'd be broke by now if I had to pay and print all those photographs out.
Oh, technology is great. And well, Lori, any parting thoughts? We've got Michelle coming up here in a few minutes. I've got to kind of clean up the house a little bit, from all the horses. They've been here, and they've got to sweep out the barn. But any parting thoughts as we dismiss?
Well, I thank everybody for coming and for having me on this show.
Well, Lori, I am so glad that you come visit us. Now, Lori will be here the second Wednesday of every month. Have you got any idea what you're going to do next week? Because horses are out. We did that this time.
I want to talk about having faith and following God's path. instead of our own.
And you're going to get that figured out in 1 month, and you're going to let us. We'll hear your report about that.
It's already figured out.
You already got it figured out. Well, God has it figured out. We're the ones that struggle.
Or at least I'm going to share my story with it.
There you go. Well, Lori, we can't wait to hear that. And I hope that you all will visit her website and visit her on Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of good stuff. But right now, Lori, thanks for sharing with us. Those are beautiful pictures in the back. The middle one is my favorite, but yeah, it's
with
tough.
The lighthouse?
Yeah. But hey, go get us some more for next time, and we'll have a contest on the favorite horse picture in the back. How's that?
That sounds like a good idea.
All right, Lori. Okay, folks, there's a nice shot of one of those pictures, and it is personally signed by Lori Hayes herself. And you know what? We're going to have to take a little break here. Sunbelt Girl will keep things going, and we will be back with Michelle Medlock Adams in just a few moments as PJNet Live continues.